Good evening, everyone. Yes, evening. Normally I say good morning, but it is not morning, it is evening. It is actually only just now evening. It is 6:10 PM as I record. It is an unusual time for me to record. I think the one day where it is most likely for me to be recording recording at a strange time would be on a Sunday. It is currently Sunday, in my time zone anyway. I think even in other time zones it's now very early morning on a Sunday, but it is the evening of Sunday where I am. And, we are here in a game. It is for Ultimate, but whether or not it's going to stay for Ultimate, I cannot at this stage be sure. We will find out. I have not actually checked yet to see if there is any possibility of me getting into a room in For Ultimate. That is the beauty of live streaming. Well, no, that's not really what I mean. If I had any sense at all, I would actually double check these things before going live. I haven't actually done that. But it is indeed live, I don't know, so we're going to find out together. My beverage today, which is largely invisible, because, now that I look at it, the bottle is green and the label is quite green, so I might have to take off my green screen just for this brief moment so that you can see what is going on. My beverage today is a nice farmhouse ale from Belgium. It is a microbrewery called, I'm not going to actually say the words, like Brasserie de Fantôme. Anyway, the point is, and for the sake of clarity, I should make it abundantly clear that I'm not French, but it is La Dalmatienne from Fantôme. You can see that there is a cute little ghost there. I have actually consumed Fantôme beer on camera before. It's just the last time I did it, the live stream was not actually archived to YouTube. You can see that my glass has the little ghost there. Like I say, microbrewery. So usually you only get these things when you're within at least a reasonable proximity to the brewery itself, but that's obviously not what's happening. I live in Australia. Not Austria, Australia. And there we have it. We have our La Dalmatienne, which presumably means Dalmatian. We can only assume these things. Especially considering that there are several spots on the label. But you can see it's rather creepy. You can actually see the game behind the bottle. I don't know if you find that to be in any way off-putting, but I do. Now you see me, now you don't. Hello Rome, good to see you. It's afternoon where you are, apparently. Which makes sense, because I remember it was morning for me when I was recording, and you said that you were waking up to a live stream of mine, so your time zone must be rather similar to that of my own. Very nice. Very understated. You see, the thing about farmhouse ales, this one in particular, is called a saison. That's what Fantôme specialise in. And, thanks to the sterling work of this white ghost, who no doubt is responsible for brewing all of these ales, this is quite a nice brew. Like I say, it's understated, but it's when you sit down and, when you quietly contemplate the flavours, they are there, and they're nice. This particular one is quite, no, shut up. That is presumably very audible. If you're wondering why it sounds like I'm being spammed on Discord, it's because that's how one of my friends actually communicates with me. Unironically, that was not him spamming me, that was just him communicating with me. In what is an entirely normal way for him to communicate with me. It just doesn't work very well when I'm live. Or at the very least, it doesn't work well when you can hear Discord through my live stream, so I'm glad that I dealt with that immediately. Alright, I just wanted to take the time to pour my beer, set the scene, let things establish themselves in a calm and relaxing fashion before we get into the rat race, which is finding a room in For Ultimate. Why do I call it a rat race? It's because you have to be quick and you have to be on the ball. So I'm now in the process of doing that as we speak. What are our available rooms? We have a room with 2 people. One of them is playing 4G, the other is playing 4 Ultimate. We also have a second room, also with 2 people playing 4 Ultimate, and a third room of 2 people. So we actually have a choice of 3 different rooms at this stage. You can actually see the list of rooms, and I may try to improve the recording of that going forward. Which is to say, make it actually visible to you. That might be a nice thing to do. Let me just change my capture here. You see how it goes black and then this comes up? There's a reason why the transition is so strange, and I will explain that to you soon. Just not immediately, and not right now, because I have to determine whether or not this is a decent room for me to be in. Where's my controller? There it is. Yeah, room-related considerations do actually take precedence over what I was about to explain. Now, this is the worst case scenario. Let me tell you why. Or rather, probably the best way to explain it would be to tell you what the best case scenario is. When you join a room and there is already a gathering hall visible, that is the best case scenario. That means that I can start playing with them without any need to converse with them. That is not what's happening now. There are 2 possible reasons as to why this is the case. The first possibility is that these 2 people do not actually have a room currently open and in use. The second possibility is that due to connection-related issues, the room is not actually visible to me at this time, and likely will never be visible until such time that they make a new room to accommodate me. So, I'm going to ask them if they're in a hunt. I'm not going to sit around waiting for them to get into contact with me for very long. There is a reason why. Those 2 other rooms that I mentioned, where there are 2 people in each of them playing for Ultimate, either of those 2 rooms are actually an option for me. Either of those 2 rooms may actually have an in-game hall that I can join immediately without issue. So I'm not going to stick around here for too long if they don't get into contact with me. Fortunately, they have responded to what I said. Some people don't actually check the in-emulator chat at all, so I'm glad that that is not the case for this room. Actually, I'm going to ask what their rank is. Because that is also relevant here. See, this is what makes things a little difficult. When you don't early to mid G, very good. If they're G rank, then I am satisfied. So this is the conversation thus far. Hello, are you in a hunt? He says, just now finished one. I ask, what rank? He says, early to mid G. My response is, nice. Your room is invisible, so would you be able to rehub? Do you see how the whole nature of this conversation is a lot more complex than other online interactions would need to be? Normally I'd have all this information to hand. He's asking me if I've refreshed the lobby browser in-game, which is sort of like asking a person if they've checked to make sure their internet is connected correctly. You know, it's like, yeah, I've done that. It's a fairly obvious way of getting the hall to appear. See, when I hit this button, sometimes it's necessary to actually spam click it, as I'm demonstrating to you now. But yeah. It's also entirely normal for rooms to not appear if I've joined mid-hunt and the room was created previously. So, there you have it. As I say, rather complicated, and now you can see all of a sudden 2 rooms have appeared, and it seems to have been a result of one of them disconnecting from the original room and then making a new room. Just the mere disconnection from the original room by that particular hunter, who is presumably Abaddon, that has now cleared some kind of lockjam which prevented me from being able to see the halls at all, which is confusing beyond my reckoning and understanding, And all I can tell you is, I don't have fucking explanations for what's going on, I only have solutions. But obviously, this stuff is a little bit more complicated than your standard online interaction in a game that has native, or I guess built-in online functionality among the Monster Hunter games. So there you have it. I'm going back to the big screen now. It looks like the cropping is not correct, which sucks. Because I actually copied my crop... Oh, I still haven't told you that, have I? I haven't explained the thing that I said I was going to explain at some point, just not yet. Let me edit this crop a little bit. So, I've got no fucking idea why it's different. Okay, so basically I had an OBS update, which completely broke my last setup. Which is fucking excellent, Doomlink says sarcastically. What the update actually did was it completely broke the previous method that I used to capture the game. The method is using window capture. Window capture is no longer working in OBS for me at all, so it means I've had to create new sources. The source in this case is game, like video game, instead of screen capture or whatever it is. And that is the reason why when I switch the views, it doesn't actually transition smoothly, because it's a different source now to what it used to be. Even though it's the same game, same window, because I've changed the method of capture, it's different now. And I don't fucking understand it. Like, why is it that when OBS updates, it actually breaks things? It makes the experience worse than what it was before. That is stupid, and it pisses me off. I'm hoping that nothing else goes wrong in this recording. At this stage, anything's fucking possible. Anything could happen. It could worsen quite remarkably as compared to the compared to what I'm used to it being. But yeah, so I have no crop on the left, but I've got a big crop on the right. So let's pull that out a little bit. Once again, no fucking idea why the crop is different, because what I did was I copied the crop settings that I had from my previous capture to this one, and it's different for reasons that I cannot even begin to fathom. But that's the situation. That's what I'm having to deal with. Okay, that's alright. Life isn't always without, oh, this is an arena quest. Life is not always without bumps in the road. The whole idea is to contrive of methods to avoid, I don't know, keeping with the analogy, damaging the vehicle that you're using to traverse the bump in question. The vehicle in this analogy is my recording process. I'm going to stop with the analogies now, it's confusing. We do actually have 4 people, which is pretty cool. I'm going to stick with this loadout here, just because I don't want these guys to have to wait for me. No, I'm not watching the new Fallout show. I'm assuming that you're asking the chat and not me, because could you even imagine me watching the new Fallout show? You probably couldn't. You would be right to struggle to imagine that. But anyway, I heard that it was extremely, almost surgically accurate in how it portrays the video games, which is pretty good. It means, I actually think that it speaks to a sort of artistic integrity on the part of the people making it, that they were willing to be so precise in their adaptation of it. I think it's better for them to take a position on it being faithful to the original to the extreme, rather than for them to go to the opposite extreme when it comes to creative license. I suppose part of it is because they knew that the viewership were going to be, in large part, people who played the games. So they didn't want to fuck around with that. Which is pretty good. Like I say, I think the thought process behind it is much healthier than a thought process that would lead the team, the production team, to just make something largely different. So, that's good. Apparently the tone, atmosphere, and humour are all very similar to the games, if not exactly the same. Like I say, it's very good. What is going on? I've not done this quest in a while. This is an event quest. It is a Metroid event quest. Apparently we're fighting multiple Nursilla. We just fought a tiny one with almost no health. We've now got 2 that are also tiny, but presumably have more health. I don't know. Wouldn't really make much sense for there to be 2 Nursilla who ultimately had less health than the one that we dispatched in mere seconds. So this should be an upgrade. I will double check the game volume to make sure it's not too loud. No, I'm happy with that. Not too overbearing. Oh, for fuck's sake. My character just refuses to get off the goddamn ground. As for what charge blade I'm using, it's just a high raw guild or relic weapon charge blade. You can see it's not amazing. I'm sure that you can get better raw damage charge blades from relics in this game, from guild quests, but you know, this is still a decent one. It's not the best possible, but it is decent. My end damage value is 1357. That doesn't sound right. That sounds like I've been, oh okay, it must have been Challenger plus 2 that gave me 1357. You can see that without Challenger plus 2 adding to that attack value, it's at 1267. And I'm quite sure that Challenger plus 2 doesn't always reflect the increase in damage that you receive from it in the status screen. I think that might be specific to this game. I'm at this stage comparing it in my mind to 3 Ultimate specifically, which was the first game that actually had Challenger plus 2. It was not reflected in the status screen in that game. And if I'm wrong about that, then hang me, I guess. She's digging. That she is. Oh, for goodness sake. Now, very interestingly, I did make 2 separate armor sets for Charge Blade. I made one for Impact Charge Blade and one for Elemental. Now, separate to the creation of the Elemental Charge Blade set, I later on decided to make a new Elemental Blade Master set for use with weapon types such as Longsword and Switch Axe. When I actually looked at the skills of that set versus the set that I had earlier made for Elemental Charge Blade, I realized that the latter was superior, or rather the former was superior to the latter. But that's confusing because I'm talking chronologically but also in terms of the order in which I said the sets. So let me make that as unequivocal as I can. The Charge Blade Elemental set was inferior to the general use Elemental Blade Master set that I made later. So I'm actually getting rid of that Elemental Charge Blade set, which is unfortunate because it looked a little bit strange, a little bit unusual. It had a white Fatalis helmet, among other things. Oh, very good. That's one way to completely ruin my life. Ruin my motivation. It's to just dig to evade my attack. I have to say, I have not seen Nursilla dig this much before. Maybe it's specific to Shrouded Nursilla, or maybe she's prompted to do it when she's in the arena, I don't know. But I don't think I'm incorrect in saying that she's digging more often than usual. It's fucking annoying. Case in point. Don't know why I thought I was going to be able to make contact there. Hopefully I don't get hit by any teammates as we all beat on the Nursilla. I have to say, I'm a little bit disappointed that they're not playing Metroid music for this fight. Bit of a downgrade from Portable Third, which did actually play Metroid music in the Metroid event quest. It's a bit sad that they're actually downgrading things from generation to generation. I mean, we're supposed to be improving things as we go from 3rd to 4th, but then, never mind, we're not actually going to have quite as much attention to detail in 4th generation. That's probably an unkind assessment of that, but to me, you know, we shouldn't be looking at things, or at least Capcom should try to ensure that there's nothing in 3rd gen that's superior to 4th gen, but having said that, I do actually prefer 3rd gen to 4th gen, so maybe not the most profound realization for me to come to, that some things in 3rd gen were better. Apparently the items aren't cropped properly. Well, I wasn't aware, but I am now. I thought that I'd actually fixed that. Oh, that's actually my fault with the... I see, that was my fault. Let me get this. Oh, now I understand what went wrong. Yes. Here we go. It's because it was full screen. I don't know if that was the origin of my issue from the start, or what. But I have now made it look correct. Thanks for letting me know, though. Remember, if the stream looks like shit, it's probably not intentional, so you are welcome to let me know. Now it looks correct. That's what we want. I had a really big lunch today, but I think I am going to need dinner still. My god. My god. You know, I would say that this is not my favourite Phantom beer that I've had. There were two that I had that I preferred. It was the... I think they called it Winter Spiritus. It was like a dark saison for... it was the winter seasonal. And there was also a... what do you call it? A collaboration with the Wildflower Brewery called Phantom Dior. I also preferred that one. But this is really nice as well. Interestingly, this one's considered to be a superior beer to both of those. But I don't like it as much. It is good, but I don't like it quite as much. Ooh, we're doing it again. That means I need to change to a completely different loadout to keep it fun. That's something I can do. It can be done. I might use my elemental loadout, how about that? So I recently remade this elemental bowgun set. I'll tell you what I changed. Instead of doing Critical Eye plus 3, I pulled it back to Critical Eye plus 1 and got Challenger plus 2. It winds up being considerably better, because Challenger plus 2 on its own is an additional 30 affinity when the monster's enraged, and then Critical Eye plus 1 will tack on an extra 10% on top of that. Critical Eye plus 3, despite being 20 points, will only give you an additional 20 affinity, because I believe it goes 10%, 15%, 20%, and then Critical God, which quite extraordinarily requires 30 points. 30 will give you 30 30 affinity, which is ridiculous because Critical Eye plus 3 used to be 30 affinity on its own. So to translate that into layman's terms for you, the Critical Eye skill was definitely nerfed in this game. So what I've done is I've almost, I've circled around that issue by getting the maximum benefit out of a 10-point skill with Expert, which gives me 10 for only 10 points. Which does not remain the consistent benefit as you go from step to step. So it doesn't go 10, 20, 30, it goes 10, 15, 20. So just 10 points in there, and then I get the benefits of Challenger plus 2. Let us not forget, it's an increase in damage as well as affinity, so you're looking at a better setup. Do not forget that I'm using Elemental Crit as well. I need to double check the weakness of this monster. As you can see, Elote is demonstrating a profound lack of patience. By walking in a circle, I know precisely what that means. It's alright, he can wait. Not patiently, but he can wait. I'm using a loadout that really necessitates the correct element being used. Okay, it is apparently ice that I want. I will go and get it. Now the problem with ice is that I don't really have, what's it called? I don't have ice crystals in this game. Because you need to mine for them and you can't multiply them any other way. Or you just can't multiply them in general. So therefore, my only recourse at this stage is to be satisfied with what I can physically purchase, and then just change ammo time. Gonna purchase some pierce shots. Elote is just watching me with an expectant gaze. I assume so anyway, I can't actually confirm that. But yeah. What's the meaning of the paintball icon next to my gun? That is called honing. So in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, Monster Hunter 4 I think maybe as well, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, there is a system called honing, and the intention behind it is to ensure that weapons that you make that are at a level below the higher guild quest levels that you've forged from regular monster materials can still function at that level. So you've got 3 benefits that you can get out of honing. The first is that you can increase the damage of your weapon. Actually, do you know what? I'm not going to use free shots here. Normal shots will suffice against this creature. So yeah, you can get an attack hone, which increases the damage of your weapon, fairly obvious. You have a defense hone, which increases, presumably, the amount of defense that your character has. So you'll notice that some weapon types in Monster Hunter will have like a plus 15, plus 20 defense modifier to the wielder. And then there's a third hone called Life Hone, which actually gives you small amounts of health, like actual health recovery, as you hit the monster. Now, I haven't actually used the other 2 honing types personally. Never used them. I've only used the attack hone, which is the red one. The cool thing about honing as well, visually for your weapon, is that it will almost shroud the weapon in a visual effect. You can see that my weapon there is almost pulsating with a red visual effect there. Pretty cool. That is indeed courtesy of the attack honing. Looks like I answered your question without having read it. Rome, that's good. Abaddon, or it's Abaddon, not Abaddon. I think Abaddon is one of the fucking 70-something demons of hell or some shit. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I don't know my... I don't know if that's Old Testament or New Testament. Probably old. But, like, I'm trying to carve this thing. But, yeah, it's Abaddon. Abaddon has been screaming things in the chat. And when I say screaming things in the chat, I'm talking about auto shouts, which are ridiculous. I don't think there are auto shouts in this game. So he must be intent. No, there are. Sorry, I'm being singularly ridiculous, like particularly stupid, because of course you have an auto shout for mounting, and then presumably other things as well. I don't know. It's the confusion that comes along, or that naturally accompanies the playing of several versions of Monster Hunter. You start to become confused as to what can be done in different games. Apparently I'm also being schooled on Warhammer 40k, which is welcome. I don't know if the abdomen is good to aim for, but anyway. I should clarify that I don't really know what the elemental weaknesses are. What I do know is that whether skin is covering Nursilla or not will determine whether or not something is an elemental weak point. Now, an interesting thing about Shrouded Nursilla, which not everybody knows about, is that the shroud is actually Kezu's skin. I don't know why Nursilla has Kezu's skin stretched all over his body or her body, but that is what's going on. That's why it has that pallid colour. So any part of the body that has had the skin broken off it, or removed from it, will now be an elemental weak point. Is it possible that I haven't really been doing much damage at all? Yes. Yes. But I'm using this loadout for fun, because we're doing this quest twice in a row, so... Just trying to distance myself from any potential attacks from friends. From fellow hunters. There you have it. Well, N10 actually mentions that Nursilla shares a habitat with Gypceros, but not necessarily Kezu, but what I'd say is that I think you do see both of them in the Hollow. I can't remember what it's called. I mean, you've got the volcanic Hollow, but then there's the non-volcanic one. I forgot what that's called. But anyway. I have seen them in the Hollow, both of them, so I think they do actually share a habitat here and there. There are some conversations about ideal emulation settings in the Citra chat. Nothing wrong with that. Apparently Nvidia is better for emulation. Probably. I actually find Intel CPUs and Nvidia graphics cards, I should say GPU at that stage, I find both of them to be more versatile than AMD CPUs and GPUs. Genuinely. I find that there's almost no other way for me to explain it. I feel like I can rely on an Intel CPU and an Nvidia GPU for a large variety of uses. And emulation would be one such example. So, like, AMD has notoriously had issues with audio drivers, like, forever. I don't think that's been... Definitely during the Ryzen, you know, pretty much since Ryzen, it's been a new era for AMD. That wasn't solved at that stage either. So maybe they're better with it now, but, like, that's just one example. I just find that Intel and Nvidia stuff, even if pricing-wise they're not competitive anymore, for me, I will continue purchasing their stuff because I feel like I can trust the reliability of their products more than the other stuff. You know, obviously the vast majority of use cases are going to be catered for by AMD stuff, and I suppose Intel's also in the GPU space now. But I just don't... as a user, I'm not interested in using stuff that's not going to work for almost any application that I may or may not want to engage with. So yeah. If anyone wanted to know my position on that, you now have been furnished with my position on that. And let me be clear, I'm not deeply tech savvy, but I use tech, so by dint of experience I can weigh in on certain things. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to get into the nitty-gritty detail of how these things work. I have an end-user perspective. Hello, Peaberry. We're all here at a strange time, aren't we? I actually was prepared to not have any of you tune in tonight. It's 6 PM, I never fucking stream at this time. But yeah. A Doomlink setup tour. Not now. It's a bit messy. My setup isn't complete yet. Still waiting to find a bookshelf that's the appropriate size and colour to sit on my chest of drawers. And, yeah, house my manga and other such things. Because I've got a fucking manga collection now. Do you know what? I held off on it forever. The first manga that I ever bought was in about 2009. I got a few volumes of Hellsing. Got Death Note. But I stopped after that. I was like, stop it, man. You're gonna start buying this stuff, and they're expensive. Translated in English anyway. You can get them pretty cheap at my local Japanese bookshop. I mean, I consider it local. It's in Sydney City. It's called Kinokuniya. You can get them in Japanese for like $15 each. But the translated ones go from $20 to $28 Australian. Think of Canadian dollars. If you're familiar with Canadian dollars, then think of that. So Peaberry's got no issue. When I say dollars, Peaberry knows what I'm talking about. If you're in the US, you've got no fucking idea what I'm talking about. Unless you yourself are familiar with Canadian dollars. Australian dollars are slightly stronger than Canadian, but less so than American. I see. So N10's point that he was making before was that you do actually see a dead Gypceros in the nest of an Ursula. So what he's saying is that ecologically they do actually overlap or interact, but there is no such example for Kezu and Ursula, which makes sense. How to zap your Zenoga? Elote is going to try to get a Skymerald. I don't like that, because that means more grinding. Makes me sad. Makes me feel like there's going to be some repetition in this live stream. Excuse me. Fun things. Oh yeah, this is my elemental loadout. Yes, I can assure you, I tried to do the same thing with this loadout as I did with my elemental light bowgun loadout, whereby I have critical light +1 and challenger +2. I couldn't do it with these skills. I couldn't do it. Believe me, I wanted to, but not everything's possible in this world. So I've gone for just raw resistance and then elemental related damage in conjunction with sharpness +1, which I consider to be elementally relevant as well, because you do get a elemental damage modifier, multiplier or modifier, what do I want to say? Relating to sharpness +1, or relating to the sharpness of your weapon, I should say. Now, do you want to see my favourite general use Blademaster set in the whole series? Like, out of every single character that I have in the entire series, do you want to see my favourite damage loadout? I don't even want to call it a damage loadout. It's a general use Blademaster loadout. This is it. Challenger +2, high grade earplugs, honed blade, critical eye +1, and speed sharpening. This is God's cream of the crop. Like, this is the divine loadout of life itself. In Mod Standard. There might be better loadouts out there, but this is my favourite among the ones that I've personally made. Because it does everything that you want it to. You're not touched by raws, you've got attack up extra large and sharpness +1, you've got a bit of affinity as well, you've got fucking Challenger. Does this thing have Challenger? Am I going crazy? It's got Challenger as well, and speed sharpening. Speed sharpening is extremely comfortable. Very, very enjoyable. I'm going to use a longsword. Yeah, this loadout, when I mentioned cream, it's because it makes me cream, okay? I love this set. Hello, Ethan. Literally, the gang's all here. We are fighting Zenogre, so ice. Dalda's Storm. This is a longsword I don't use in any other game, I should mention. These guys are being very patient with me. I do thank them for that. Obviously, the praises that I'm singing for this armor set do not extend to the appearance of it. It is a fucking ugly set, but do you know what? I have a particular talent. A great ability for creating ugly fucking mixed sets in 4 Ultimate. My ugliest mixed sets that I have in all of the games are in 4 Ultimate. They are so ugly. It's incredible. But yeah, young Garuga helmet with a Cantor chest piece. That's fashion right there. That's fucking fashion. You can even see a bit of leg. I don't know, once you're looking at that Garuga helmet and that chest piece, surely you start to hunger for some feminine eye candy, and guess what? It's there. It's right there. It's got the best of both worlds. It's what you want. Yeah, Peaberry's talking about my Rocksteady Greatsword set, where it has the... yeah, it's got part of the Guildmarm's armor and also Morales cap. It's so bad. Ethan and I, our old mutual friend Sam, used to actually be personally offended by how ugly that set was. His reaction to it was very funny when he saw it. Looks like we've got a mount, so we will not immediately make use of that trap. Well, thank you, Rue. I think the reason why my armor sets are unique is because I never check to see what other people make. That can be for good or for ill, but, you know, if you think of the person who, you know, goes online, I think of the Reddit person who checks Reddit for an armor set. I only know those people because I've checked the Monster Hunter Reddit, and you will find those people. They, instead of adventuring through what is available in the game, they will literally ask someone to just give them an armor set. As much as I want to say that that's entirely missing the point of Monster Hunter, everyone can experience the game in whatever way suits them, I suppose. It's not for me to impose a correct way to play Monster Hunter, but oh, that was very nicely done. That was absolutely smooth as a baby's behind. What a ridiculous phrase. The point is that, you know, part of the enjoyment of Monster Hunter should be self-sufficiency. Surely. Like, imagine just going around saying, make me an armor set. I don't know what to make me something. You know, that's the way I interpret that shit. I'm sorry. It probably sounds awfully unkind and unnecessary for me to phrase it in that way, but that's how I look at that shit. You know, if you're scared to have something that's not optimal, then that's okay. The solution is to do more research, not to go, help! I need an armor set! You know, But anyway, sorry, that became very negative very quickly towards those people. I was intending to stay on the fence, and but no. I genuinely don't appreciate that stuff. But if people choose to play that way, then they are welcome to do so. As I say, my armor sets might not be perfect, but for me what's important is to find something effective. Not the most not the most effective thing possible, but to find something that works, and that works with my talismans. And, you know, I get more satisfaction out of it if it's something I've made. If it's something someone else made, there is no satisfaction in that. So, that's how that works. Yes. Yeah, there's a few examples of that, Ethan. For both armor and weapons, there are there is G rank equipment that does require high rank stuff. Yeah, it does exist. Oh, you mean a high rank set? Do you mean... So, like, if you were going to make a G rank armor set, you would need the high rank version? Is that what you mean? I'm not completely clear on what you mean, but... Yeah, if you mean materials to forge stuff, yeah, but... As for requiring an entire set, well... When you say yeah, I assume you mean... Like, for example, with an armor set, you would need a full high rank set before you can forge something else. No, I haven't encountered that. Not in my experience. It's because there has never been a marriage between high rank and G rank stuff in that way. Of course, if we look back at Try, you were able to upgrade low rank stuff to the point where it was high rank appropriate. I think you sort of like... You would almost limit break your armor and turn it into high rank stuff. But there was nothing that required the lower level or the lower tier in full to be forged before you could make the next level, so no. Well, Ethan, I didn't even know that your roommate actually played Monster Hunter. This is presuming you haven't changed roommates at any point. If it's the same person that it's always been, I've never heard of this person playing Monster Hunter. Although I suppose living under the same roof as you sort of increases the likelihood that they might be ingratiated into that world. I was playing this game with some people before, where it was a person who was experienced in Monster Hunter, and another person who had been introduced to Monster Hunter by that other person, by that friend. And, yeah, he sort of made it clear to me in the chat that he was fairly new, but he had been introduced to the game by this other friend of his. And, you know, my response was, wow, great friend. You know, if you've got a friend in your life who introduced you to a series as good as Monster Hunter, I'd say that's a good friend. I am that friend for some people. But, yes, I'm also engaging in a form of self-gratification. Self-congratulation, sorry, is what I meant to say. But yeah, if you can introduce something like this to a friend, and they gel with it, it aligns with what they enjoy in a video game, then you've definitely done an immense favor for that friend. What a great thing to introduce for another person. I think that's Zenoga again that has been put on the board, so I will... I don't know, bring a fucking... No, I'm not bringing a hammer. I'll bring a swish axe, so I can keep using this beautiful loadout. It is Daora again. Daora. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ethan. It does make sense that if you've already made the high rank version of the armor set, that you should be able to at least have some form of shortcut into the G rank version. I don't think I would agree with the idea that you prevent people from making the G rank version if they didn't make the high rank version, but definitely there should be a pathway that's much easier for a person who already made the high rank version. It makes sense. And then I think in turn, they should offer it should be sort of an upgrading of the armor pieces. I don't think you should be able to keep the high rank pieces, because otherwise it wouldn't make any sense for it to almost be a shortcut, would it? Because you'd be augmenting the armor at that stage. So you'd be changing it into something else. And yeah, it's such an obvious thing, isn't it? It's so funny because Ethan comes up with these things that are just so obvious, and look, I don't take time to think about these things. I leave the designing to the game designers, you know, but when I hear the things that Ethan comes out with that Capcom have never come out with, it just makes me realize, well, I suppose it's two things. The first thought obviously has to be that Ethan's definitely quite gifted in coming up with these ideas himself, but it also in my opinion, casts Capcom in a bad light in some ways, because some of the things that he comes up with are just so obviously good and so, you know, they are no-brainers in some cases. So, yeah, it's amazing that Capcom don't think up these things, but yeah, my opinion towards Capcom as the developer of Monster Hunter has only soured over time. It really has. And I suppose that would be one of the reasons. All the good fucking ideas have been completely left to lie fallow while they piss and shit all over the series. So, yeah, hard to not hold them in contempt, really. Really hard. But yeah, Ethan is a fucking endless... He's like a Monster Hunter idea generator. Because he thinks about it and he cares and he knows what makes Monster Hunter special. So, yeah, for sure. Oh, I need to stop. Stop it. No. Rome, I do not just refuse to use Switch Axe. I don't like the weapon type. There is no weapon type in the series that I dislike so much that I will never use it. There is no such thing. Oh, except if we want to call it a weapon type, which it kind of is, according to the Guild Khan, Prowler. That is one weapon type that I dislike enough to not use it at all. But aside from that, you know, I will use Switch Axe. I just think it's complete crap. It's obviously it's an evaluative opinion based on other weapon types. It's comparative. But it's not... When I use it, I don't feel pain. I don't feel miserable. I don't feel like I need to use something else immediately, otherwise I'm going to have some sort of emotional meltdown. But if I had to use this thing 3 hunts in a row, I probably would feel exactly that way. So, you know, it depends on the intensity of the exposure to the experience. You know, if you fucking subjected me to endless Switch Axe use, I'd probably curl up into the fetal position and be inconsolable for several days. And the same would be the case for Gunlance. I actually did that to myself with Gunlance, I think, to get some weapon uses up. Possibly in this game. And I think I did something like 30 consecutive Gunlance uses. And I couldn't touch Gunlance for a good 6 months after that. I was so sickened by the weapon type. I don't like Gunlance, I have to be honest with you. But I can stand it for a few quests. But just the crushing lack of mobility. It is probably the weapon type, in my opinion, where you are the most vulnerable when you're using it. You just feel fucking useless when you've got it out. The shielding is not as effective as the lance, and you can feel it. And the lack of mobility is something that you can really feel as well. And the people who main Gunlance, I don't know, I'm not going to malign them in any way, but I don't understand them. I'm happy to say that, unreservedly. I don't understand those people. I mean, to be fair, I don't understand people who main weapon types and just don't use other stuff. I don't understand them. So, I'm probably not well placed to comment on a person who mains Gunlance. Because in my opinion, if you're playing Monster Hunter, which has all these weapon types, just branch out a little bit. Take a chance. Play with something you're not comfortable with. It'll get comfortable soon. You know, I think it blows my mind to see people find refuge and comfort, like they're in a safe bubble, with one specific weapon type, in a series like Monster Hunter, which is just discomfort all wrapped in a big ball. You know, if you're brand new at Monster Hunter and you come into the game, you're floundering, you're like a fucking infant. You can't do anything right. It's a really difficult game, and maybe that's why some people just stick with one weapon type. They're afraid, they feel discomfort in the idea of using something that's unfamiliar to them, because they've finally found something that they can that they're comfortable with and don't want to branch out. That's probably a really unkind assessment of people who use one specific weapon type. But, you know, that's one interpretation. I think, you know, you need to be willing to try new things. But also there is an almost logical disconnect between a person who plays Monster Hunter and a person who needs to seek comfort in the proficiency that they've developed with one specific weapon type to the extent or such that it prevents them from trying new things. I mean, to me, if you're playing this series, you should be adventurous enough to try other stuff. Not everyone is built the same. Indeed, the world would be a boring place if we were all the same. So, there you have it. I can relate a little bit to that, you know. I wasn't comfortable in using Charge Blade for a very long time. It was a weapon type that I was almost repelled by because of how unfamiliar it was. I had become very comfortable with every other weapon type in the game, and then 2 new weapon types came along. Insect Glaive was pretty simple to use, and the benefits associated with its use were so immense in this particular game that there was no way I wasn't going to use it, right? So I learnt it, but Charge Blade in this game was a bit intimidating for me. It's a very complex and dynamic weapon type. So, you know, even to this day I'd say that the weapon type that I'm least proficient in using is the Charge Blade. So I can relate a little bit to the hesitancy to use something unfamiliar, but fuck me sideways. Like, how can you do, like, let's say, just as a hypothetical, how can you depart on like 100 quests in a row with one single weapon type being used? Like, how can you physically do that? I don't get it, but maybe speaking from my own perspective where I have that choice because of what I've opened myself up to and what I've developed a comfort and proficiency in, maybe I'm so used to having all of those options that I can't imagine a world without it. Whereas these people, they can't imagine a world where they have all those options, so they're comfortable. Maybe that's what it comes down to. Maybe they don't suffer that which they... How do I complete that sentence? They don't suffer that which they do not understand, or that which they don't realize to be a negative at all. You know. Anyway. Yeah, Charge Blade's pretty good. Potato, if you're still in the chat, Potato in the chat, if he's still here, he is one of those people who never touched Charge Blade because he didn't want to give it a try. And he still thinks that Switch Axe is better. And then I asked him, like, well, have you played Charge Blade? And he's like, no. Like, what are you doing? Not what are you doing, but, you know, how can you have an opinion on a weapon type you haven't properly used? Once I actually used Charge Blade, I realized that Switch Axe was a pile of hot garbage. It really is just a... It feels like an alpha version of Charge Blade, because Charge Blade, as I say, is such an intricate weapon type in so many ways. There's so much you can do with it, and it's so well designed. Sort of depending on the game that you play, because it does change in minor ways from iteration to iteration. But to compare that weapon type to Switch Axe, you look at Switch Axe and it's obviously a comparable weapon type insofar as it's a morphing weapon type. You know, you've got a sword and an axe, and then obviously the same can be said of Charge Blade, but they couldn't be more different from one another. One is just brain dead and uninspiring and uninspired, in my opinion, and the other is a masterclass in weapon type design. And yet they exist simultaneously. In my opinion, one should have replaced the other, because it's the same principle, it's just one is a much, much better execution of the principle. The principle of having a weapon that morphs. And yeah, Switch Axe is a balls to the wall blowout of a weapon type. Which was real cute in 2009 when Tri came out in Japan. It's not fucking cute anymore. It's not fucking cute. I mean, maybe Maybe it got good treatment in World. I don't remember it. I used Switch Axe a little bit in World. I wasn't impressed by it. I didn't feel like I had rediscovered Switch Axe or anything. So while I'd say one of the good things that World did was the weapon design for weapon types, not the visual weapon design. Don't mean that. I'm talking about the way that the weapon types themselves were designed. In terms of how the hunter would interact with them, that was mostly done quite well. With a few exceptions that I'm not going to get into because I'm not discussing that game tonight. But Switch Axe didn't get enough innovation for me to actually like it. What are they doing? A quest was put on the board. I think it was Stygian Zenurga and something else. It was one of the key quests, I think. Yeah, Ethan, you mentioned thousands of hours in Monster Hunter. I obviously recognize that, and so I speak from a perspective of having encountered people who have hundreds, and in some cases thousands of hours in Monster Hunter who do still stick to a single weapon type. You know, you do see them. I've seen the guild cards. The guild cards don't lie. You know, if I'm looking at a Hunter rank 999 who's got 5,000 uses in dual blades and almost nothing in anything else, yeah, that's not... I'm not misinterpreting anything here. So, yeah, obviously I think of people like that when I make that comment. I'm not thinking of a person who's either only been playing Monster Hunter for a short time, or someone who is still feeling their way around the games. Like, I'm talking about a seasoned Monster Hunter player who just plays one or two weapon types. That's what I have in mind. I don't know what the other monster is, so I might use Raw. How about I go support? May as well. So Ethan's opinion is that Switch Axe is slightly more realistic than Charge Blade. Oh, it's fucking Ukanlos now. Okay. Well, I suppose I could continue with this. There's no reason to not use this. Got Seditious Edge, Mind Stick Fiend. There's actually a very, very cool insect glaive design that I've seen recently in this game, which I don't think I've seen before, or at least I'd forgotten about it. It's the Silver Rathlos and Gold Rathian insect glaive. That is a cool design. Really cool. I don't know if you can find a good picture of it online, but if you can see it in game, it looks really cool. It's like a winged spear, but the wings are literally the wings of a Rathalos. It's cool. Very nice weapon design. I haven't eaten. I'm glad I checked for the 5th time. Don't know precisely how many times I checked, but it felt like more than once. We'll put it that way. Yeah, I love weapon types like, say, for example, a gun lance where the lance is a halberd. That's really cool. Another example of that would be a hammer that's like an axe instead of a blunt weapon. I really like weapons like that. Lances that are halberds, like the Rusted Ambrose lance from 3 Ultimate. It's a halberd, which obviously halberds are also thrusting weapons as well as chopping weapons, but it's different from the standard. Looks really cool. Well, it is true that you've got different weapon types for different people. But yeah, I think I'm surprised by people who don't graduate from that, is what I'd say. I think at a certain point you have to graduate from the weapon type that saw you through the early game. Apparently Abenon's Outfit reminds you of Tavo. Oh, poor Tavo. Where is the guy? I haven't actually heard of him, or heard from him since the 3 Ultimate servers went down. He was a rare case. He was a person who pretty much exclusively played 3 Ultimate. Didn't really play any other Monster Hunter games. Oh yeah, I can see why it reminds you of that now. Well, that set was very Monster Hunter Tri. Quite common that you would see that back in the Tri days. The leather jacket with the leather pants. And the stunner shades. Believe it or not, I am currently using my 3rd least favourite weapon type. So, least favourite weapon type, fairly obviously, is the switch axe. My next least favourite would be gunlance. The 3rd and final, I don't really keep any ranking beyond 3, is dual blades. I don't fucking like dual blades at all, and I know categorically that Ethan hates dual blades. So, he's not going to disagree with me on that point. Oh. Yeah, Ukanlos has so much health in this game, but he also has a lot of damage. I'd say Ukanlos, for some reason, feels harder in this game than he does in Freedom Unite and Portable Third. Don't know what it is. He just feels more robust. And in a way that is bad for the hunter. There we go. Finally got a fucking paralysis. Felt like it took too long. I'm usually very spoilt by these dual blades. Well. I've got 340 paralysis. I checked my status rather than the weapon itself, because I do have status attack +2. With status crit, I think. What's my... No, not with status crit. That's alright. This set's got Hone Blade, what can I say? God. Definitely need to sharpen up. You could see there that I did the... I associate that with World, actually. That attack where you jump off something with dual blades and then you do this fucking cartwheeling strike. Very anime. Of course I associate that with World because that attack was unbelievably anime in World. It was the most anime thing in the entire game. I would say that World could be characterized as a game that was intended to be a bit more grounded than the others. It was meant to be a less anime experience, slightly more realistic. I have to say slightly more because obviously Monster Hunter in concept is not a realistic type of game, but you know, for as realistic as Monster Hunter can be, I'd say World was really meant to be that kind of game. But my god, you jump off something with dual blades in that game, it's on. It's on for the young and old. It's like I'm watching fucking Kirito fight the Gleam Eyes. And it's, yeah, it's out of control. But very cool. Very cool. I sort of thought that I started with purple sharpness, but I really do not start with purple sharpness. Can I get my next paralysis, please? I feel like it's time. I really am spoiled. He's having trouble, this Ukanlos. I can demon dance until the end of time. I'm like the Scarecrow in Majora's Mask. Obviously the reason being that I have infinite stamina. Or did have infinite stamina. Courtesy of Abaddon. Did I miss one, P-Berry, or did you think you saw one but didn't? I'm confused. But anyway. Oh god. That was a little bit dangerous there. I don't think I would have been hit, because if you're standing really close to Ukarnos when he's shooting his laser, it's usually okay. His laser is one of the most dangerous attacks out of any monster in the series, actually. The reason why is because the laser itself is obviously very scary and damaging, but these gigantic blocks of ice that fly all over the place when he shoots that laser, God, if you're anywhere near him, they're gonna hit you. It's bad news. Got another paralysis. Yeah, that's probably what happened. I must have missed a paralysis, but then the next one came quite soon after. I'm probably not the only one going paralysis. I think maybe Hung. Could be Hung. Could be like some Chinese fucking name, I don't know. Actually, no. I am the only one going paralysis. When I read Hung, obviously I'm thinking of something else. Something a bit more phallic than whatever his name was intended to be, but you know what? Maybe I'm just being culturally insensitive, and maybe I should shut up. I think possibly, no, not with purple, but definitely with white sharpness, you do bounce off Ukarnos' arms. His arms are very armoured in G rank. I presume that to be the case. That is the hardest thing that I can hit right now. There's nothing else that I would have bounced off except for those arms. There we go. That was a pretty good hunt. I would say that I supported the team fairly effectively. Really glad to be able to play this game though, while live streaming. It used to be so difficult. Think of the fact that I started live streaming Monster Hunter in 2019, and probably from 2019 to 2024 I did maybe 5 recordings of For Ultimate. Pretty crazy if you think about it. It's like 5 years worth of recording Monster Hunter live, and I just didn't do it at all. I did maybe, it probably wasn't even 5, you know. I think I did maybe 2 or 3 non-live recordings of it, but yeah. It's because it's so temperamental to emulate. But it's better these days, thanks to Citra Nightly, or Citra in general, and releasing Vulkan, which actually allows the GPU to share some of the burden to the system when actually playing the game. It runs a little more smoothly now, I'm happy to say. Although, guess what? It's still considered unstable. Still unstable, I mean, what the fuck? How can it still be unstable? It's unbelievable. Can I just have a gaming experience with For Ultimate that's not fucked? I've been waiting for some time now. My opinion was that the gaming experience was fucked natively on that system because it was the 3DS. So, yeah, I've been waiting for a while. I'm going to visit the bathroom. I will be back momentarily. Oh man, is that Crimson Fatalis? Says Elote. Yes, the answer is yes. Stygian Zenoga is yelling at a wall. Not dissimilar to that meme where the guy is having a conversation with the wall. It's rather reminiscent of that. Oh! Damn. Almost cannot believe that that didn't hit me, yet somehow managed to hit the guy with the big dick. Remarkable. Oh. I had things fairly well laid out there. I was going to do one more thrust and then counter the attack that the Stygian was gearing up to dish out. But then I got hit by an unseen orb instead. I need to find a way to get away from these guys, because I'm currently being hit by everything that they are doing. As you can see, if you are a Lance user and you are in the general vicinity of an Insect Glaive user, prepare to suffer. Prepare to suffer. Here's my Lance set. Doesn't get better than that. Well, it might get better than that, but it's pretty good. It is sufficiently effective for me. It floats my boat. Tickles my fancy. And whatever other phrases can be used. Sayings. Very good. I do have a bit of a penchant for Crimson Fatalis weapons in this game. You stick an attack hone on a Crimson Fatalis weapon in this game, you're looking at something pretty tasty. Very effective. Admittedly, they're quite good without attack hones, but, you know, particularly good with attack hone. They are raw focused, usually with a touch of blast, but there are exceptions to that, such as the Greatsword, which is sitting on an immensely substantial 1,000 fire element. I will say that again. The Greatsword for Crimson Fatalis has 1,000 fire element, with a fairly sizable chunk of raw damage, and purple sharpness at sharpness +1. It's a truly lovely weapon. It's just delightful. But yeah, most of the other weapons, in fact I think all of them except the Greatsword, are indeed blast weapons. So, general use. Oh. I should have tried to turn and shield. You couldn't quite describe what I did as an evasive maneuver. It was more like a pathetic floundering. Inane backhopping, leading to palpable embarrassment. Here we go. I drew into a shielding maneuver, and that was not good enough, apparently. Well, all I can tell you is that I need to heal, and I'm not able to deal any blast damage, so I'm not able to take advantage of that at all. I cannot exploit the benefits of that trap. I have to say, exploit was not always... didn't always have a negative connotation, you know? Think of the old Prime Minister John Major. He used to say exploit all the time. It's not a negative connotation, it just means take advantage of, you know? Exploit. Nowadays I have to almost stop myself from using exploit in something that's not negative. I feel like it just has a negative connotation now. Oh, looks like we have an opportunity to keep beating on him. It's actually quite silly to watch him go through the motions several times to leave the area. I benefited from the trap by healing, that's true. Yeah, it gave me a chance to heal. It kept the monster in place for a while. Oh! Possibly not great timing for me to unsheath and attack. No, I do not appreciate having these Dragon Balls, and I do understand what I'm calling them. I don't like having these Dragon Balls spawning on my position. I'm happy to countenance a ball attacking me from a distance, but I will not brook the spawning of a fucking Dragon Ball on my personage. That's bullshit. I'll just say on my person, I won't say personage. That's rather silly. I'm being attacked. I'm being aggressed. In fact, stop it. And I got a Sky Emerald. Ow. Alright, where is the next monster? I don't remember which monster it actually is. Let's have a look. We are not actually being informed as to what the next monster is until such time that it actually appears on the map, which is a bit awkward. It's... What is it? It's a Tigrex, isn't it? I think... No, it's not a Tigrex. It might be a Rathalos. No, that doesn't sound right either. I don't remember what I saw. I do not remember what I saw. Then I can say, with some confidence, I really don't think... They're looking for... Oh, Christ, we're following Elote as he rather pointlessly looks for something that does not exist. Okay, the monster's not here. We have it here. Here we go. It's Gore Magala. So now the monster exists. Fuck. And he has, by some incredible coincidence, just managed to appear where the monster is. Well, I can guess where he spawns, and it's where we engaged the Zenoga the first time. Now, did I fail to restock potions before departing on this quest, or did I actually use that many potions in this quest? I hope it is the former and not the latter, because that's ridiculous. If so. Or if not. Ah-ha-ha. Very good, Peebo. The subquest from the beginning actually showed wound Gore Magala's head. I did not read that. Very observant. More so than my observational abilities. More impressive than my abilities to observe what is actually in front of me. I should be watching more carefully. Nope. I have to say, I do not like Chaotic Gore one bit. He's very frustrating to find. He's actually managed to grab someone in his wing arm. Like the wing arm talon was actually grabbing onto someone while he was moving around. That's amazing. I haven't noticed that recently. I'm sure I saw it at one point in the past and then completely forgot, but seeing it again now, it feels as if I've never seen it before. Nope. Getting some lovely hit lag on the head. Very satisfying. Broke the horn, which does not knock him out of his enraged mode as Chaotic Gormagala. Oh, not good. This is a lovely, not the lance itself, this is a lovely shield, isn't it? On this lance. Looks really cool. Those massive horns coming out of it. Oh. It was a very well-placed trap. I didn't even get the time to see the trap and realize that it was there. He was immediately affected by it. Which means it was placed exactly where the monster was, Doomlink. Pretty cool. Ow. Oh, very good. I'm being rather predictably flinched by Elote. What was he doing in that moment? He was just standing there twitching in an intimidating fashion. See that? See what he's doing there? It's scary. It's like he's gearing up to do something outrageous. Like he's just, his body is just twitching, like he's standing there almost seething with rage at the sight of me. It's quite funny. In a fascinating way, not in a ha-ha way. If this were real life, I'd be pissing myself. Chaos scale. I'll tell you what I have in abundance. It's contrary scales, because I don't use them. Oh, it's the rare item. Lovely. Well, I don't use them, so I've accumulated quite a few. I've got 2 Star Knights there. And only one of them is using Insect Glaive. Who would have thought? Uh-oh. The guy who hosted the quest is saying, "Thank you all. I hope that's not a form of farewell." I want to do about 2 more hunts in this live stream. Elote responded with :D. Because the Citra chat is very old style, it's very IRC chat, you know. There is actually a necessity to type fucking emoticons, which, I don't know, it's a bit of a foreign concept to me at this point. I've been using Discord since 2015, it feels so old-fashioned now to use emoticons. But, well, I should make it very clear that emotes, custom emotes didn't exist on Discord until like, what, mid-2016, so it wasn't a thing in 2015. Discord was very bare bones in 2015, I have to tell you. It was like a shell of an app, a shell of a chat. A lot of things were introduced later on. You couldn't even change your name color back in 2015 unless you had a bot that had been designed to specifically do it. Like a custom-made bot to change your name color. How it would work is to change the color of a role, which would then affect your name. Yeah. It was an interesting time. Neither myself nor anyone else using Discord at that time could have possibly expected it to become literally the replacement of Skype. I couldn't have fucking guessed that. Or at least Skype for people on the internet. People who were participating on the internet as gamers or as enthusiasts of online content. I think that might be it.